Welcome to this lunchtime broadcast, which highlights the news making headlines in the land of the brave and beyond, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports, and economic news. Here are the news headlines. Azaan, Madisia, and Stephen Mulundu sentence unfair, Wasserfall family says. Erongo police concerned about escalating suicides. NAMRA refutes allegations of recruitment prejudice. Ghana back as Africa's top gold producer. I am Glenora Shipura, and this is NMH at 1. In our midday news update, Shannon Wasserfall's family were distraught after the sentencing of Azaan, Madisia, and Stephen Mulundu in the Windhoek High Court this morning, with Wasserfall's uncle, David Wasserfall, describing the sentencing as unfair. He further said the state should appeal the decision. Now, Azaan, Madisia, and Stephen Mulundu were sentenced to 8 and 6 years imprisonment, respectively. They were found guilty on a charge of obstruction of justice related to the death of Shannon Wasserfall. Madisia received an additional year for each of the 2 charges of fraud to which she pleaded guilty. 2 years of both Madisia and Mulundu's sentence have been suspended due to the fact that they have already been in custody for more than 2 years. Irene Marie van der Wald reports.
I'm Chenko's uncle, I'm David Wasserfall, and what I will say, the sentence was very unfair. And the way the court find this person not guilty on murder, it's really unfair. How could you take a body while those children said straight into the court that Shannon was unconscious? And then when it comes to the sentence, really, they show us this bad way by sentencing these children. Really, so this 80 sentence, huh? And this was a professional crime what they committed. Huh? Tomorrow it can be the judge who stands in our socks. Huh? How will he feel? Huh? That's really unfair. So I think the state have to appeal this case, because we can't understand it. You got out of that was just how much? It's 10 years comes out. To take a body and take it to a grave. It doesn't give us our daughter to bury our own daughter, or take her to a professional doctor. They are not doctors in profession. That's a fact. They are not doctors of profession, and they can't do that. By taking that body, they were supposed to call the ambulance, who are profession. The police could come also there. The doctor have to declare her dead, not them to declare her dead. So what the court says there, they were sure Shannon was dead. Huh? I think the society also feel also not good about that. How many people has been sentenced a year for many years for this type of crimes? And it's a brutality crime. Huh? The nature.
Visual News brings you local stories from across Namibia. Right after the break, stay with NMH at 1.
Ek is Coretti Duplessis.
My name is Katja Pieters. My name is Justice Shehama. I am Namibian.
Hallo, ek's Damien Stevens.
En ek is 'n Namibianer in Nederland.
Bly tans in New Orleans in Amerika.
In Heidelberg in beautiful Toronto, Canada. Currently part of... So I'm currently based in South Carolina in the US.
Getting into our visual news, the police in the Erongo region have raised concerns about the escalating number of suicides and called on individuals to seek support instead of attempting to take their own lives. Inspector Eleni Shapumba, Commander for Community Affairs in the Erongo region, said that statistics show that more men than women have taken their lives in the region.
But what is worrying us mostly is the incidence of suicides. When we analyze these suicides, reports, majority of the people that has taken their own lives were men. As we speak, from the beginning of this year in January, we have up to 16 people that committed suicides. Out of these 16, one was a female and the rest were male. Majority of the people that committed suicides majority of the reported cases came from Madisia. We do not know what are the causes, but we hear, no, the person will travel to the north or travel somewhere, the person was preparing for the wedding, and so forth, and later we find the person has hanged himself, or the person has taken his or her own life. We had recently facilitated a men's conference. We thought some of these activities have really assisted to shape the way we react to situations that are facing us. But if you have incidents of suicide, and the majority of these cases were reported in the month of May. As we speak, last night there was a person that committed suicide in Madisia again. So it leaves us with questions to say, what is it that we can do collectively as communities really to assist those that are in need? And what can the people do themselves when you find yourself in a situation that's pressing you in a corner, and you think the only way to come out is by means of taking your own life? It's a worrisome situation, and we are calling upon the church leaders, we are calling upon social workers, we are calling upon community leaders, we are calling upon everybody really to see how best can we solve some of these incidents.
There has been uproar over perceived mass exclusion of the numerically dominant tribes of the Karas region from the ongoing recruitment. After the break, the Namibian Sun highlights how government plans to address this issue in today's newspaper review.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with the entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past week.
Yes. Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
Let's take a look at our newspaper review. Namibian Sun zooms in on labor affairs on its page 1 with a report that due to uproar over perceived mass exclusion of the numerically dominant tribes of the Karas region from the ongoing recruitment of police cadet officers, government has moved to ensure that all future recruitment comprises 80% of each region's indigenous communities. The outcome of the Karas recruitment process so far shows that the majority of the 183 shortlisted candidates have Oshiwambo-related surnames. For example, from the first 20 names on the list, 13 are of Oshiwambo origin and only 2, a Joseph and a Kafir, related to the Nama ethnic group, which makes up the majority of the region. The Namibia Revenue Agency has refuted allegations that its recruitment process are prejudiced. According to Member of Parliament Edson Isaacs, the agency has deliberately excluded certain ethnic groups during recruitment. He made these comments during the 7th session of the National Assembly last week. In a statement, NAMRA said it has maintained a transparent recruitment process where all positions are advertised internally or externally. Despite successive legal setbacks, aviation firm Menzies Aviation Namibia refuses to admit defeat. This time around, it is attacking its competitor Paragon Investments Holdings by accusing it of lacking the experience needed to provide ground handling services at Namibian airports. Menzies made the claim in a statement issued on Friday after losing a Supreme Court appeal it had lodged against an eviction order. Now, the eviction order was granted by the High Court during the latter part of 2022 in a matter between itself and Paragon, effectively ejecting the company from the Hosea Kutakos International Airport's premises. Republican on its page 3 reports that while Mozambique last week became the first country in Southern Africa to obtain Starlink internet services, Namibia, Zimbabwe and Eswatini should have access to these services before the end of 2023. Starlink promises lightning-fast internet services to even the most remote areas in Namibia, even where internet services are currently very slow or have never existed before. This should offer great benefits for Namibia, where currently only around 21.2% of households have internet. Following the disbanding of Agribus Dev, a large number of staff have been integrated into the Ministry of Agriculture. This is a temporary solution, according to Agriculture Minister Slydwine, who says the green schemes that have now been activated will improve the maize harvest. The Namibian lawyer and fish rot implicated, Maren de Klerk, who has been on the run for years, was arrested almost by chance in South Africa. At a meeting with just the police unit that was searching for him, they arrested de Klerk on fraud charges against another ex-South African lawyer. After the break, we continue with a newspaper review.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
We continue with our newspaper review. The Namibian newspaper, in its lead story, reports that Immigration Minister Albert Kawana has proposed a visa exemption for Chinese nationals arriving in Namibia for a period of 30 days. Officials at the Home Affairs Ministry are reportedly unhappy with the relationship between senior ministry officials and the Chinese government. They are particularly concerned about conditions in the agreement which may disadvantage Namibia. The First Lady of Namibia, Monica Geingoes, has expressed her frustration and reiterated her firm stance on the ongoing speculation about her political aspirations. Geingoes addressed the issue after the Voice of America White House correspondent Anita Powell speculated that she may have aspirations beyond her current role and could potentially run for a political position in the near future. The shortage of medicines and clinical supplies will soon be something of the past as the Health Ministry started to procure medicine and clinical materials directly from suppliers. This was announced by the Health Minister Kalumbi Shangula yesterday in Erongo during the occasion of the annual National Pharmaceutical Services Forum. On the paper's page 3, a pressure group under the banner of Kauko Civil Society Organization has threatened to shut down the offices of the Kunene Regional Council today, citing exclusion of indigenous communities from public contracts and promotional positions in the region. The third monetary policy announcement for the year by the Bank of Namibia is expected to take place tomorrow. Year to date, the central bank hiked the repo rate by 50 basis points. The rate at which commercial banks borrow from the central bank currently stands at 7.25%. At least 32 former workers from the dissolved Agricultural Business Development Agency, Agribus-Dev, are being integrated into the Agriculture Ministry. The story leads us into economic news on the other side of the break.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our economic news, at least 32 former workers from the dissolved Agricultural Business Development Agency, Agribus-Dev, are being integrated into the Agriculture Ministry. Agriculture Minister Karl Schleitwein said the integration process started last year and is still ongoing. At the moment, the employees housed in the ministry are acting as a support team to the Director of Agricultural Production, Extension and Engineering Services, he said in response to questions in the National Assembly. Schleitwein explained that this is an interim arrangement while the absorption process is finalized. All staff members from agronomic and engineering services will also be integrated, he said. According to the minister, about 285 employees at the country's green schemes will be employed by incoming service providers who will take over these projects. Let's take a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.34, against the euro at 20.05, and against the US dollar at 18.57. 2 Namibian dollars and 6 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. Stock on the NSX all remained the same. Overall index went down, closing at 2.00%. Only gold and Brent crude oil went up. Brent crude oil trading at 1.79%, going for $73 and 49 cents per barrel. Ghana has regained its status as the leading producer of gold in Africa after a 32% surge in gold production last year. More on this after the break.
To another exciting episode of Erongo Talk. Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Let's take a look at the news from across the continent. Ghana has regained its status as the leading producer of gold in Africa after a 32% surge in gold production last year. The Ghana Chamber of Mines attributed the development to an increase in production in both small-scale and large-scale mining. But the country is now facing an environmental crisis due to illegal gold mining. Much of the country's forests, rivers, and other bodies of water have been damaged by illegal gold mining, prompting serious health concerns in mining communities. Popularly known as Galamsey, small-scale mining has been the source of livelihood for a lot of unemployed youth in southern Ghana. The government and experts have warned that Ghana could soon have to import drinking water if the current rate of destruction of the environment is not stopped. In our next story, tens of thousands of Zimbabwean nationals working in South Africa who were facing deportation when their work permits expire at the end of June have been given a temporary reprieve after South African authorities extended the deadline on Thursday. About 178,000 holders of the Zimbabwean exemption permit and immigration permit issued in 2010 to Zimbabweans who had migrated to South Africa now have until the end of December this year to apply for other visas and waivers to continue working in the country. Many Zimbabweans, some undocumented, are living in South Africa with a significant influx recorded following the 2008 political and economic upheaval in Zimbabwe that resulted in many fleeing to their Southern African neighbor. Announcing the decision, Home Affairs Minister Aaron Motsoaledi said the department has been receiving between 1,000 and 1,500 daily applications for visas and waivers from Zimbabweans looking to extend their stay in South Africa. After the break, we get into your international news. The elders of the 4 indigenous children who were missing for more than 5 weeks in Colombia's southern jungle after a plane crash pulled her youngest sibling from the wreckage, the children's grandfather said on Monday. The children aged 1 through 13 survived the May 1 crash that killed their mother and 2 other adults and were found on Friday in Caqueta province after weeks of searching by the military and indigenous communities. Now, the older sister, Leslie, whose courage has been hailed by authorities as key to the children's survival, pulled the youngest child, Christine, from the plane. Grandfather Narciso Mukatei said in videos posted by the Defense Ministry. The children spent 4 days near the wreckage, he said, eating flour that had been on board before wandering from the side. Now, the children used large leaves and branches to shelter from the rain, he said, and spent time with one of the military rescue dogs sent to look for them. The dog, Wilson, remains missing, and an operation to find him is ongoing. The children are recovering satisfactorily, the Child Welfare Agency said. After the break, we get into the sports news.
Ek is Corretti Du Plessis.
My name is Kate Pieters. My name is Justice Shehama. I am Namibian.
Hallo, ek's Damien Stevens.
En ek is 'n Namibianer in Nederland.
Bly tans in New Orleans in Amerika.
In huidelik in beautiful Toronto, Canada. Currently part of... So I'm currently based in South Carolina in the US.
Getting into our local sports news, Blue Bulls rugby president Willem Strauss and Blue Bulls CEO Edgar Radbourne confirmed an open secret at a press conference in Windhoek yesterday that the Pretoria franchise will visit Windhoek on the 26th of August to play against Namibia. At that stage, the Namibian side will be fully into its preparations for the Rugby World Cup starting in France in September. In an effort to empower women's football on the continent, the Confederation of African Football has thrown a spanner in the works for football clubs by making it mandatory for them to have women's teams in order to participate in the 2023-2024 Champions League and Confederation Cup competitions. CAF has set a deadline of the 30th of June for the clubs to comply with the new requirement. The Namibian karate team that departed last week to participate in the African Union Sports Council Region 5 Karate Championship in Harare, Zimbabwe, has fulfilled their promise by returning home with medals. The team consists of 56 athletes, achieved a total of 42 medals in the champions held from the 8th to the 11th of June. Among these were 4 gold medals, 14 silver medals, and 24 bronze medals. We'll be back with your international sports news shortly. Novak Djokovic reclaimed the world #1 ranking from Carlos Alcaraz after winning his men's record 23rd Grand Slam title at the French Open, while Rafa Nadal dropped out of the top 100 for the first time in 20 years. Djokovic, 36, began his record-extending 388th week at the summit on Monday, jumping 2 places in the standing after his victory in Paris at the weekend. He beat Spaniard Alcaraz in the semifinals of the tournament. Kylian Mbappe has told Paris Saint-Germain he will not take up the option of a 1-year extension in his contract when it expires next June, L'Equipe reported on Monday. Mbappe, a World Cup winner with France in 2018, confirmed his decision in a letter to the club and could even be sold this summer, as PSG will seek to avoid losing him for free, according to the local reports. The forward would be free to negotiate and sign a pre-contract agreement with a new club from January should he decide to see out the remaining year of his deal at PSG. India will begin their next World Test Championship cycle with a 2-test series in West Indies next month, which will be followed by 8 limited overs matches that the Caribbean Cricket Board has said. India lost to Australia in the WTC final on Sunday, repeating their 2021 performance when they finished runners-up behind inaugural champions New Zealand. Beginning on July 12, Rohit Sharma's team will play their series opener against West Indies in Dominica before moving to Trinidad to play the 100th Test match between the sides. After the break, we get into the news highlights from today's broadcast.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
To another exciting episode of Erongo Talk. We bring jou Leties die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik kan byt.
You are watching NMH at 1, and if you've just joined us, here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. Ghana has regained its status as the leading producer of gold in Africa after a 32% surge in gold production last year. The elders of the 4 indigenous children who were missing for more than 5 weeks in Colombia's southern jungle after a plane crash pulled her younger sibling from the wreckage. Blue Bulls Rugby president and CEO have confirmed that the Pretoria franchise will visit Windhoek on the 26th of August to play against Namibia. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world, ranging from current affairs, economic news, sports, and international headlines. I am Glenn Rashipura. Until next time.